that was a couple of techniques there that I have no idea how to do, and it's just like a little introduction, and that's the point of these sessions is like I don't want cookie cutter chiropractors. I don't want everyone that just 20 carbon copies of Zarak. And that's why I just want to bring as many people here as possible, and thank you for coming to give you a little introduction to these different techniques. And there was a couple of really nice points. I like what you said about the testing, doing the tests, and if you're wanting it to work, then it taints the whole energy of the thing. So you said you were at a party once, and you kind of that ego where you're like, oh, let me show you something. This is going to be cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And as soon as you do that, that's when, in my opinion, it's very safe what you're doing, especially if you're training and you're taking this seriously and you're going through the steps and you're being very respectful of the person. If you are going to hurt someone, that's when you'll do it. When you're in your ego and you're like,
100%.
I have to show. So I'll do it if I adjust cervicals in the chair. If I adjust in the chair and it's not quite clean, that's okay. Set up again, do it again. If it doesn't work the second time, maybe I would adapt. I would change something else. So I've done cervical chair twice. I'd be like, okay, let's go supine. If I go supine, it's like 3 strikes and you're out. And you just say to the patient, be like, today, not today. Your body right now is saying no. It might be me, it might be my technique, but maybe your body is just like, not today. And if you're respectful to them and you just assure them of that, then there's no problems. You never have to be like, I have to prove something to you or I have to show something to you, because that's when you get in your ego and you're like, I have to make it go. Yeah, that's when you'll hurt someone,
Actually, just to talk on what you just said, if you're about to thrust and you have any doubt, just don't do it. Like, it's not about, if you have the ounce of a doubt before you're about to deliver the force that maybe you're not exactly there, or it's not going, just take some time, put the head again back on the headpiece, and then get back on it. Be sure, be 100% certain before you go and adjust it. And it happens sometimes when you're like not 100% in flow, and sometimes you have just like one thought that comes to your mind while you're adjusting. You don't want that, and you especially don't want that when you're like setting up and about to thrust. You want to be 100% listening to what your fingers are telling, and 100% certain that this is going to be beautiful adjustment no matter what. And again, you don't look for the cavitation. So I think personally, if I thrust and it happens that you don't hear anything moving, I would just, before setting up again and thrusting again, go again to my indicators, see if there is anything changing, and if something is changing, that's enough. You're here to just allow change to happen, not here to crack bones.
Yeah.
So,
and
I would go and do that.
I invited Élie here because we've known each other a long time, and he's very well rounded. He can adjust, structurally. He knows some of the tonal stuff. He's been immersed. You've been adjusted since birth. Yeah. So he's very well immersed in chiropractic, and his communication's very good. He's got very good business systems. So if anyone has any questions regarding any of that stuff, I would invite you to pick his brain a little bit.
It's nice of you, but I'm in the process of learning all of this. It's just it's been only a few years, and on the scale of my chiropractic career, I'm just like I'm still a student, just out of college. So. But it's good when you get out that I think being exposed to everything that's out there in the profession, and then decide if it's for you or if it resonates or not with you, or not, and then discard it. But then I think I encourage everyone to take as many seminars as possible, in as much in technique wise or business wise or communication, and maybe you're gonna only keep one thing of this. Or you can go on follow very strict model like the Gonstead system, for example, and then you would go full on, and if it resonates with you, then amazing. But personally, I think it was good to get a bit of that and there, and then decide not to do it because it doesn't resonate with me. We want to be innately driven chiropractors anyway. We don't want to be the conform copy of someone else. And I think that's why there are so many chiropractic techniques. It's probably because innately people were using the skills they had from a technique and they discovered clinically another way of doing it, and then they teach that.
The conclusion I've come to is whatever it is that you're using that gives you that certainty that you're like, yes, there. And then you get excited with the patient. You can say, look, you see how I don't really use muscle tests, but I'll be like, you know, you could, if you get really excited about muscle tests and you're like, you see how this was weak and like now it's strong, and like they feed off that. I like the scope, I like x-rays, stuff like that.
Whatever helps you gain certainty. Like people, in the end they don't connect with like a muscle test, or they just want to know that you can help them, and they want to see you're certain of what you do. And if you have a very strong philosophical background, that helps a lot, because then you know why you're doing what you're doing. And if you're very clear about why you're doing what you're doing, if you're very clear about it, it makes sense to the people on the table. And then they are more willing to accept also the adjustment. And in the end, you don't do an adjustment to someone, you do an adjustment with someone on the table. So I think it's important to have them on board and
explain that to them before the first adjustment. Just say, hey, you know, we'll try some tests, blah blah blah. If your body is saying no, or if you want me to stop, then just say, and it's something that we're doing together. You know?
Or I tell them that I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. I know that I cannot predict how your body is going to react to what we're going to do. I just know that I have a very good system to find priorities and interference, blockages, or I even say subluxations, but not that often. And then
you don't say subluxations often.
I do, but I don't just spit the subluxation word out there. I first start by talking about interference, blockage, whatever resonates with them. Like, I don't want to just lose them with like a big word.
That's interesting.
I also, and then I define it. I say that we as chiropractors call them subluxations, you know, but you can see it as like a blockage of whatever you want, mental impulse or energy.
Even there's two very different approaches. If you ask any of my patients that have been with me for a considerable time, you've done it in the waiting room. He'll be in the waiting room of BCC and be like, "You're Zarak's patient. What's a subluxation?" And they'll tell you.
Cool.
You know, because I hammer on that. I'm like, this is the areas that you're subluxated. This is what a subluxation is. Here is it on the spine. You tell me what a subluxation is. Now go tell your friends. You know, I hammer on it.
That's good. Like I might just see how that works for me as well. I might kind of try that, but it was what works for you as well. You don't want to be. I'm never going to be Zarak's copy, and you do your thing. But it's definitely worth trying.
Yeah, even Louise and I that have been through. You know, we've lived together, we've trained together, we've done the same seminars. Two very different communication styles and adjusting styles. You just do what resonates with you. Did you have a?
Yeah. Could you guide us through your journey after graduation? Because you've been doing a little bit of here and there, right? It would be cool to just hear about it a little bit.
So I've been always like, and I'm still moving on the spectrum of vitalism and mechanism. And somewhere I like to think that I'm a vitalistic chiropractor, and I probably am. But there are many techniques or ways that you almost feel that you're like correcting something. And then if a patient has fertility issues and you know tools from a technique that are very specific for this issue, you want to go there and do this. So it's always, and it's not only just having a protocol, finding the blockage and then just let God do the healing. So that's my journey so far. But now I realize that you can really be, if you accept that this is just an interference and your goal is to allow the body get rid of this interference for it to function to its best, it doesn't matter what technique or what you do. So to answer to your question, after I finished BCC, after I graduated, I was in the process of waiting for accreditation.
Oh yeah.
I was going to be the second cohort. We were going to be the first group that we wouldn't be sure about what would happen for us in terms of accreditation. Maybe we would not be grandfathered in with BCC, so I decided to go to NZCC, New Zealand. And they are really, really good. That's an amazing college as well. I kind of unlearned stuff that I learned here for 1 year, and then went full on and learned they have a good, they call it the NZCC package, and then they take some elements of analysis from several techniques, and they give you this package to detect, analyze subluxation, and I think that's really cool. And then they really train you in one technique, either 100% gone state or upper cervical, and then you have this package to analyze, and then you have the technique to adjust, which I thought was really cool.
That's nice.
And I kept a lot from this. For example, activator, we learned activator there. I'm not an activator person. I use activator as a force application sometimes, but I love the analysis of it. And same for upper cervical. I don't only do toggle when the person is in pattern, for example, but I learned few things from the upper cervical analysis that I love and that I put always in this. And so I came back to Barcelona. I've been working with my dad, who has a practice in Barcelona for 3 years. It was really good, amazing opportunity. And I opened a practice in March. In March we signed the contract, but we actually opened in June because there was a lockdown in the middle.
You might have heard about it.
So yeah, no, in June starting seeing patients and all through summer, and it was really good. And I'm doing my thing and take a bit more time than I was taking before, because then I can start to really implement all the tools that I have in my toolbox, and I love it. So
Nice.
I'm hoping to keep growing this way and to find to keep refining the protocol and the way of menuing, like knowing which technique and which approach would be better for that person at that specific time to help them the best. So that's where I'm at the moment, and it's just a journey, so it might change and evolve. It's probably gonna change and evolve.
So you worked with your father,
Yeah.
for 3 years,
Yes.
and now you opened your own clinic, right?
Yes.
So schools usually try to give you some sort of communication, sort of management, business, and all stuff. Do you think is it enough, or do you think, or you would advise people to try something like a locum or working for somebody before open their own clinic, or do you think it's pretty doable right away?
Depends on your personality. It depends on many factors. It depends on if you have a big loan when you get out of college and you want to just get money in quickly, and even if you really know exactly what you want, you might also want to just spend some time with an experienced chiropractor and learn all the bits that you would never been shown in the seminar, not even in college, because you need to have the experience and to see how the dynamics of a CA and office and everything works, and I think it's very important. And yeah, I would recommend, like, the first, when you start when you open your own practice, you need to be aware that it's some work, and if you start from zero, it's an investment, and you might see a few months before you actually start seeing like good, proper income also as a chiropractor. So just be mindful of that. That being said, I think in the chiropractic profession, it's quite you don't have this 2-year rule of opening a business, and before it starts to flourish, you can go very successful very easily
As an associate.
as an associate, or also as your own if you open on your own. So I would definitely recommend to all the students and all chiropractors as well to attend not only technique seminars but also communication and get really on point with your philosophy, because if you're principled, then it's much easier to build on top of this philosophy than to just try to get it afterwards.
Which coach or which communication seminar would you advise?
We can cut that bit if you want. But
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Like
don't go to this guy.
I love the day 1, day 2 course of Brad Glowacki. I did that, and
I'll do that.
I was part of his level up coaching for a while, and then I was not a good implementer at the time, so I had amazing content, but I was in an associate practice where I was not also fully able to go full on. So I would definitely recommend at least do the day 1, day 2 of Glowacki. Amazing guy, and even if he sounds very American and you think this will not work here, it does. It's about your. Then you tweak it to make it more culturally acceptable
and something that resonates with you.
Yeah, exactly, totally. And but even if you have no idea what to say, just follow the script. You're gonna end up to a point where the script you start tweaking it, and then you make it your own. I don't do anymore like the full on Glowacki because then I took other stuff. But I'm planning to go back and study it, to go back to those foundations. I think Ryan Ryder is an amazing public speaker, really good. And in terms of marketing, he opened. Have you heard about him? Yeah, opened many practices in the UK in a very short period of time. So he must know what he does in terms of marketing and getting people in. So I would not ask Ryan Ryder how to adjust a sacrum. That's not my first thing. Maybe he's an amazing adjuster, but I know he can teach me that, and then Brad Glowacki would teach that. I've coached with Mark and Lynn, Mark Hudson and Lynn McAdama for 1 year, and that was an amazing opportunity. It was just before they got in with the Willow practices, and they really helped me get my shit straight, with what I wanted, and so I definitely recommend, 100% recommend Car Europe seminars to every student as soon as they open again. I did, I think, 12 or 13 of them, and every year there were 2 seminars. I would go to both of them. You don't pick one, or you don't wait till the big one in April. No, actually, during the small ones in October, it's usually where you bond more with other chiropractors, and so they have an amazing program. They only have people on stage that are uninterested chiropractors, not up here to upsell their coaching program, which is also very appreciated. And it's also the community. It's not only for the content of the seminar, but just for the context.
Yeah, like you guys are pretty new, so maybe there's seminars around that you haven't heard of. If you're thinking about going one, like you can ask us, ask Louise, and we'll say like, okay, these guys are gonna talk from here, and these guys are gonna just try and sell you a product. Just watch out for that. And actually, with the taking what resonates with you and making it your own, that's what Kerry told me as well. So I went deep into this Sigafus stuff. I haven't been to a Brad Glowacki seminar, but I will go. I want to go to that. But he was like, whenever you're going through my father's stuff, you can take what he's saying, take what resonates with you, and then change it, and you can repeat it, and it will become you. So for example, Sigafus was very religious.
Yes.
I am not. So he likes to talk about God, and he likes to talk about God and Jesus and the Bible. And I'm like, when he's talking about that, it's universal intelligence. Let's just agree that there's a higher power that knows more than you do. So universal intelligence for us. So when Sigafus is like, I move the bone, God does the healing, I just be like, I move the bone, innate does the healing. That's what I'll say that to the patients. I'll be like I'll move the bone, and then your body's going to do the healing. I think it's the last slide in my charla. It's like, I move the bone, you do the healing,
and you're not yet out of college, and you already are so clear with what you want. Probably in 10 years you will say something quite differently, and that's fine, and you're gonna just...
Even looking back on podcasts I recorded a year ago, I look back and I'm like, I learned,
Yes, Yes, totally. So
It's part of it.
good job,
Anything else?
please.
Someone else can ask, not just him.
It's on fire. Well, what's your experience in opening a clinic in the middle of a pandemic? Pandemic, sorry.
Good one. Well, it's not easy, but it's doable. Like I did it, and I'm in the process of doing it because it's a young practice. But yeah, totally. Like if I knew that this is what I wanted, I was not gonna wait till the end of the pandemic to do it. And I found that maybe you might have patients. It's a bit harder for people to commit on a big on a long term with like a big money investment upfront. Like I would probably do much more easily before. But they do if you give them the reason why they should invest. Now it's the best time for them to invest in the health, and if you give the good context for it, it works. I'm just starting doing some memberships for the people that are going to maintenance. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'll let you know. I just started doing that, so signing up people on a more monthly basis. During the pandemic, I did some coaching with Vismai. I don't know if you heard about Vismai.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing human being, probably a great chiropractor as well in terms of adjusting. But in terms of running a business from the heart, wow, really, really brilliant person. And I found that chiropractic is for everybody, but I'm not, and you said that sometimes. So
no, I got that from Pat.
Yeah.
I have to give credit to Pat. That wasn't me. I wish it was me said that.
It's something that first I didn't really get my head around that, and then I have my own personality, and I'm gonna attract more people, and ideally, if I want people to stick with me on the life basis, on the life over the lifetime, or if I want people to come and get my chiropractic services for many years, I might as well just find the people that have the similar values as I have, and then really connect on that level with them, and put my energy in really finding those people and filling up my practice with those like-minded or like-minded people, instead of really trying to get
sell everybody,
and to spend all my energy in trying to sell something to a person that is first maybe not interested in that, or not ready yet to take that, or that doesn't really resonate with my values, and then we'll find other chiropractic services with another chiropractor.
Don't feel like you have to sell to every patient. Not every patient is supposed to be with you, and you're not for every patient. The wrong patient will screw up your whole entire shift. Am I right?
Yeah, well, it depends on how if you're grounded and you don't let it happen. But yeah, you definitely don't want to have people that are not
don't want to be
there.
Here. Yeah.
You don't want them there either. It's about making sure that first, and that's what I started saying in my first visit, is that the first visit is about making sure that I can help you, and that you want to be helped here. That you connect with me as well, because otherwise there's no point.
How can you do when you see a patient that like maybe want to be adjusted by you, but you don't feel like it's your right patient?
No, I will always take a patient. I'm not saying no to a patient. It's just I will say anyone, even if someone doesn't believe in chiropractic and say that subluxation doesn't exist but still wants to get adjusted, yes, let's do it, and maybe that person is so subluxated that is not in flow enough to, and I've seen several patients, and that being said, we've seen several people that are really annoying, and they are the worst, and they are like, they want to really break your balls, in the beginning, and then after a few adjustments, they're like, it's a huge shift, and they are the best referrers. they are the people that didn't really believe in what you did, and then they were shown the light, you know, like, and not only they were taken away from pain, but they were like they're experiencing life to another level, and I love these people because they're gonna refer also people.
I had a guy come in who was just like, as you say, like busting my balls in every test I did. Now, he had a lot of stuff going on, and I just said to him, I was like, look, I don't send everybody for x-rays, but I've started sending more, and I said, look, just to be safe and know that we're doing everything right, I'm going to send you for x-rays. Well, why do I need x-rays? What's the x-ray going to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And I had x-rays because the last patient in had just brought film, so I put up a lateral cervical on the screen, and I was like, you see, like, I draw the lines, and this is the area that there's a potential subluxation, and you can even see here, like, the foramina should be like this, and it's like this. Well, I don't think it's smaller. I think you're just sending her for x-rays. And I'm like, no, I've analyzed a lot of x-rays. I can see that that's smaller. Like, okay, don't worry about it. The point is I'm sending you for x-rays. And then the other one was the pinwheel, the dermatome. I was like, do you feel it more on this side or on this side? Like, you tell me if you feel a difference. Well, I think that you should go to your supervisor and you should ask why in the year 2020, like, is there not a machine that can do this where I know that it's the same amount of pressure? Because for what I know, you're putting different amounts of pressure on different sides just to convince me that I have this subluxation that you talk about. And at one point I said to him, like, do you want the fact that you're here shows that at least in some capacity you think that I can help you. He started care. I've seen him 5 times. And now, he's a lovely man. He stands and he talks and he, how are you? And he had a keyhole surgery for his knee booked, and he cancelled the surgery. He's like, I don't need it anymore. I didn't even look at his knee. He's like, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah, you don't know the background of a person. Like, you don't know why they are like that as well. And you cannot assume that it's their personality. Like, maybe they're just been through so much shit that they're like not connected. So to answer you, I would not accept a patient ever, not ever. But then I know where my energy is going, and maybe I would not spend so much time as to chat about life with this guy that has different values with me, and that I would with another person that maybe I would take the time to speak more or connect more on a deeper level. Beyond the adjustment, and
who was it that Albert worked with? The other associate that was there when Albert was there from BCC.
Francesco. No, it was not Francesco. It was Italian name.
It doesn't matter. He's like Rudy. Albert was here one time, and he's like, yeah, the patients come in for their first visit, and if I don't like them, I'm like, you need to go to Rudy. Rudy can help you more than I can.
There's no right or wrong. I think I'm hoping that there's gonna be as many principled chiropractors as possible to take care of everyone, and also on the more mechanistic end of the spectrum. That's amazing as well. We need chiropractors that are gonna spend the time to take your pain away, and they're gonna really work in that direction with the patient.
I have a patient that needs a lot of rehab, as I said. And I don't particularly want to guide him through that process, but I know someone who loves going through rehab and is going to write him an amazing program and keep him accountable and make sure that he does it and make sure he's doing his homework and blah, blah, blah. And that gives her energy. She loves it. That's part of what she likes to do to help people, and that's great. So it's just like, hey, I think this person, I've took you as far as I can get you. This person's a really great adjuster as well. They're going to be able to do the job as well as I can, and they're also going to be able to do this extra thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, knowing your limitations as well, and your scope of practice, and being able to tell them, it shows vulnerability as well, and people can. This is very marketable. Like, people connect to someone that is willing to say what is not good at. So I tell them that if you want a massage, I'm a terrible massage therapist. I'm so bad. You should not come to see me for a massage. But if you want your subluxation corrected, I'm your man.
And you touched on something earlier. You told them all, go to one technique seminar for everything. I would,
Sorry?
like you said, go to each technique seminar and see what resonates with you.
I think, yeah, that's good.
Like
if you
try
can
it.
go on with the full seminar, but already connect and go see chiropractors. Go see chiropractors that are practicing different techniques and go spend some time. And maybe that's not the best ambassador of the whole technique, but it's before you just you need to pick and choose which seminar you're going to first invest your money on, because it's an investment on yourself. But if you have the opportunity to do as many different approaches as possible in the chiropractic world, I encourage you to do that, and then decide if you're gonna go with, okay, that's the direction I like, I'm gonna go for module 2, B3, like whatever. If you're gonna do the syntropy training and well, I think then there's also another thing. We as chiropractors should be proficient in structurally adjust the spine. That's something that I am very clear about that. But that being said, there are also other. We know now, we understand that there are other interferences going on in the nerve system that are not only going to be addressed by pushing a bone out of place. And there's also other approaches to that. So I encourage you to also dig in and explore.
And that's what this is for, like to let you see what you like. I think you want to adjust the way you like to be adjusted.
That's true. And I've just started so I'm doing TBM in practice. Well, at least I've been doing that for a couple of years on top of many other things. And I've just for the first time went to a TBM practitioner this Monday and to get adjusted, and I'm gonna get TBM care for a while just to experience as well, not only do it. So
if I adjust people how I want to be adjusted, I'm not like limiting myself in what I can learn.
yes, for sure. But then
That's what I did.
I also encourage you to go and experience chiropractic adjustments beyond what you already know of chiropractic. So as yourself, but I think it's true. We often tend to especially as a chiropractor, you're always a bit critical when you're on the table. You're always like, I would have done this differently.
Even if you're trying not
or
to
maybe
be.
not, or maybe not. Like if you're really surrendering and that's ideal. Actually, that's the best state to be on when you're being adjusted. But my educated brain often tells me, okay, that's interesting. I would do this a bit differently, and that's it. Do you experience that? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, like
I would do it, but like, that's a new way of doing.
I had to evolve to get to that point. Before, I liked to be structurally adjusted, and I actually did it.
You actually did it.
I like to be. That's funny. Yeah, I like to be structurally adjusted, and then I found in first year, second year, if I had a more softer approach, I would leave the table and kind of be like, is that it? So I had this prejudice, and then what happens is you have other people in the class. This is why I think it's nice to do like stuff like this to see, okay, do I have any kind of a future in SOT? Well, I like it. Louise liked it. I didn't particularly like it, so I didn't do it, and he did, which is great. So try different things, and you'll see what you like. But then I regret this was a mistake. I that's why I'm telling you guys, so you don't do it. My mistake was I was judging other people for their technique, and I would have been like, well, this person's doing, I'm just going to say it, like they're doing BGI because they don't know how to adjust. And maybe there was an element of truth to that, and maybe some people were nervous about the structural adjustment, and that's why they went and did it. So I had this prejudice, and I'm like, no, I don't want a BGI adjustment, that's for. And then after a while, I went through this journey, went through this transition, and then I was like, I have to give this a chance. Yeah. And I spent time with Amy Burke, I spent time with Katina Manning, and I loved them, and I went to a seminar, and I went and I tried it, and you know what, I like it. I don't want to practice it, it's not how I want to be with my patients, but I got a couple of things that were useful to me, and I receive it. I had BGI twice this week. this week I was like, I feel I'm over adjusted from years of structural adjusting. I was like, I don't want a structural adjustment, but you know what would be really nice? Some BGI, and I did. So I got to the same mindset, but I had to go the long way. I had to go through the journey, and now there are some techniques that I prefer more than others. There's some techniques I'm like, maybe there's a lot going on, but I'll never judge about it. I'll never be like, oh well, they're doing that because they're shit, or they're doing that because they can't do the structural adjustment.
Yeah, it's good to not put any prejudice. It's some internal work that we all have to do, because there's always an ego that's we have expectations.
Leave your ego when it comes to technique. Just leave your ego.
I think it's the work of a lifetime to kill the ego. But yeah, like if you go back to this more tonal technique and approaches, Sue Brown, who developed BGI.
That's Amy Burke's mentor.
She was an amazing structural adjuster. She just decided to apply that osseous force at the time weren't exactly when it was needed, and on top of that she learned other approaches too, and Donnie Epstein as well, who does the father of NSA network. So I think definitely learn how to adjust the spine, make sure that you know how to move every single joint in the direction that is anatomically correct, and then decide not to do it if you will, and or to do it when to do it.
And it's how you're wired as well. So for instance, I was like, I want to be good at structural adjustment, and I did MLS Syntropy to be good at full spine diversified, and that was it. So don't talk to me about SOT, don't talk to me about Thompson, don't talk to me, I just didn't want to do any of it. I was like, I want to have a portable bench and be able to adjust, and that's it.
That's good.
Now I've done that, and I'm like, okay, Gonstead, and now my brain's like, okay, Gonstead. So that's how I'm wired. I like to focus on one thing and get good at that one thing, specialist. Leia, who I have a close relationship with, and we've gone through the levels as well. Her brain, she has an amazing brain, and she likes, and when she's with a patient, she'll do like Gonstead analysis, and then she's like, this person needs a block, or this person needs some AK, or she's doing tons of stuff, and I don't think any of those options is right or wrong, but it resonates with that person. So if you ask me to do all my brain, no, I can't. Even just thinking about it makes my palms sweat. I can't do it. It's too much information. But focusing on that one technique, that one thing resonates with me. So you have to pick what's right for you.
And I encourage you to do that, exactly. Like when I'm saying do as many things as you can, don't try to master everything. That's never going to happen. Just get a feel of what's out there, and then take away and go and do the technique and learn the technique, how the technique is meant to be taught. And then on top of that, when you feel professional enough, go and get more tools. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
So don't try to master everything.
I don't think you can.
Every technique, I mean every technique. Be a master of your own technique, and your own understanding of chiropractic and what you can.
Yeah. I do think there's a lot of people that are doing a bit of everything, and I think if they were, Arno said it's instead of digging lots of little holes, dig one deep hole until you hit the oil. And I resonated with that, but I know other people don't. And
well, I'm giving this advice to myself as well. I know that I'm a young chiropractor, and now I'm interested in digging more into the TBM thing, TBM world. But I also want to be even more proficient in the more structural approach. And
I sent a patient to Guillaume. Who's doing matrix, and I just said, look, he's a chiropractor, he's very good. I don't know what he does or how it works, but I know it is good for me, and you should go and try it too, because I think there's an emotional component to what you're presenting on the table, and he can help you with that much better than I can. So you can go for these other techniques, but I just don't want to learn it.
Cool.
Let me have my scope. Anything else? Pick his brain a little bit.
All right. So going back to the set you having a membership, and it's all about what is truthful to you. You have to be authentic, right? If you say to a patient, I want to see you twice a week, once a month, whatever it is. This past week, I've got for the first time a patient asking, after I changed my mindset, after the patient asked, for how long do I have to come for? How long? And I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I've been preparing myself. Like, I want to say for the rest of your life, you know, like, yeah. And like, all right. And then I said it, for the rest of your life. And then I went down with the conversation. It was cool, and she's super happy. She said, yeah, she changed to another city, and she's going to drive 2.5 hours to get adjusted and drive back. So, but I want to understand you. Does it often the patient says, every patient you say, hey, I want to see you for the rest of your life, or is it all about steps? Hey, we have the red block, like
6 weeks,
steps, 6 weeks, revision, that's the reason we have you in the plan. What do you do?
I thought that I was very clear about it in my report of finding. I really thought that talking about my priority is to get you to the objectives, your health goals. So if your health goal is to get rid of pain so that you can be better at parenting your children, whatever. So let's get to there, okay? And then beyond, my recommendation for you is to make sure that you always have a chiropractor nearby in your life, and that you use chiropractic as a tool to have the best experience of life possible. And I explained that in the report of finding, the first visit, and I also explained that I'm a son of a chiropractor, being adjusted all my life, and that it makes no sense for me that I stop being adjusted. And probably I can connect on that level. But just yesterday, I had a patient exactly the same. I did the first visit of the girlfriend, and the patient was there. And we were arriving to a point where his visit package was ending, and he asked me, "But does it ever end?" And I was the same question as you. Does it ever end? I said, "Well, it shouldn't have to. Like, will you stop eating healthy food ever?
Absolutely.
Will you stop exercising ever? When would you stop?" And it opens a good conversation as well. So like I really think that vitalistic chiropractic, or like chiropractic as a health choice, as a lifestyle, is much closer to getting the right food and getting the right amount of movement in your life, and than a therapy itself, which is taking you from the dis-ease to lack of symptom, for example. So, but I'm saying we're gonna have time to talk about that, and I just want to let you know up front that this is what I'm all about, taking care of you for as long as you want. But my goal is your goal. Let's first get you where you want to go, and then we can sit down, not only talk about how amazing you feel, but also talk about your future goals and what you want to gain from it. And if they ask me how frequently should I come, I don't have the answer to that. Like I think that being checked a couple of times a month is always good. It depends, and then I go back to the stressors. No, like it depends on the amount of stress you have in your life. Maybe if you're a Tibetan monk, meditating all day and drinking purified water and exercising every morning and
Kangen water.
And exactly. Big up to that.
Man, I had a patient with an atlas subluxation. I said, I don't know what to do. I got some Kangen water. I poured it on his head. Guy was clear.
So what I'm saying is that maybe if you don't have if you are able to limit the amount of stressors in your life, you won't need as often a tune-up as the one that's sitting in front of a computer all day for decades. And the way things are moving forward with the society, it's going to look more like we're going to be sitting in front of computers for the rest of our lives. hope that it's not going to be the case, but it was a very boost in that direction for the last few months. So for people to be constantly receiving chronic stresses like that, stressors, it would be insane for them not to have a chiropractor checking their spine and nervous system on a regular basis, so that they can optimize their body function and health before it's crisis time again.
And you can teach them with that as well when they ask those questions. I had a patient say, like, how long do I have to do this for? And I told them about Gonstead, and I was like, well, there's this famous chiropractor, and he said in this book, and I showed them in the book, I was like, he said that he thinks that patients shouldn't get adjusted that often and that they should get checked 4 times a year. And I was like, wouldn't that be amazing that you only have to come in 4 times a year? And then I said, but do you think, this was in the 60s, so he lived in a farming community, and what sort of stresses do you think they had? Oh, probably lifting a lot of stuff, and they probably had a lot of physical stresses. I'm like, I agree. What kind of stresses do you think we have now? Well, and she says, she's like, I think we eat like shit now. I think we consume so much pharmaceutical chemicals, and we take all these chemicals in the food and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh yeah, and what about the sort of work that we're doing? Well, we're sitting at a desk more often, we're getting the UV light. And I'm like, all right, so do you think you agree with Gonstead? Oh, I think maybe we need a little bit more often than that. I'm like, yeah, I think so too. But once a month for me, I'm like, once a month, come in, get checked, cool.
I think our philosophy is unchanged, and it hasn't moved an inch since it was so well written by our founders, because that's the principle in which acknowledging universal force flowing through the body, and our goal just being here to facilitate that flow of life. But chiropractic has evolved as well since it first was developed. At least the whole technique part and the patient management part as well has evolved, and I think it's totally okay. We should be clever enough to accept that there are other components and
the
to take into account. Exactly, other stressors, the food, as you said. We don't talk enough, I think. Well, maybe more now with the 5G, that we haven't talked much about electromagnetic interference at some point as well. We are able to measure the electromagnetic field of the heart, the brain. So being so much exposed to information everywhere on a daily basis cannot be ideal and optimal for our bodies. Even if you turn down the Wi-Fi in your apartment, you still get the Wi-Fi from everyone around. And again, I don't have any scientific studies to show and evidence-based to show
it just
that
makes
this
sense.
is.
It's hitting us above, below.
It's information, and you just want to make sure that you don't create too much interference if you want optimal function.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Anything else?
Just going back to the communication thing with the patient that you had recently, like what was the answer to that? Like, was it surprised? Was it understanding about the sorts of like lifetime?
So I switched the conversation to the membership that I was mentioning before. His package was done. He was not going to buy a package of, well, he didn't want to buy a package of that amount just before Christmas time, but he was totally on board with signing up with the membership, and so in December he's going to do 2 visits in a month, and he's going to get that membership going on. And I told him that at the moment it's the only membership, it's the minimum visits that I have available on the membership is twice a month, and that's it. And if he, and that's always going to be there. And if there's 1 month he only does 1 adjustment instead of 2 because he doesn't make the time for it, he can definitely take over and the following month do 3 adjustments if he wishes. Okay, but it's not my responsibility anymore to be behind them and to remind them that this is the time for you to be adjusted. It's like, that's the membership. This goes on. If you're, it's like a gym membership.
Yeah.
You can make the most out of it or not. In this sense.
And those are the most fun patients, the ones that are just
Yes,
maintenance
yes.
care. I come, I
And-
get checked.
And it's about cycles. Life is about cycles as well. So it makes also sense that when you think about memberships also or this type of system, it's not about just one big investment that you do now to get out of pain. It's just like you're investing on yourself or
A problem that I had in clinic was, I think I never learned this, no one told me, but I would pre-frame what I want to get them to. So I'd be like, hey, my goal for you is that you come once a month and get checked. That's the level that I want to get you to. But maybe I had a complex or something. I'm still wrestling with it a little bit. Is I'm like, look, I am a chiropractor. Chiropractic is my life. But chiropractic's a very, very small component of that person's life. They're worrying about their job. They're worrying about, are they going to get engaged? They're worrying about the mortgage. They're worrying about the coronavirus. I'm a very small component in that person's life. So I'm like, the quicker I can get them to that, the better and the more likely they are to stay, which makes sense. But then what I was doing in fourth year is I would be giving people the care plan, and I'd be like, you're going to come once a week. I think I could count on one hand the amount of people that I've said you need to come twice a week, which is very common. But for me, I was like, it's a strong adjustment. Once a week is enough. And I would have them going once a week, and maybe they were getting results. And then as soon as they were getting a little bit better, I'd be like, okay, you can come once every 2 weeks. Because in my head, I was trying to make it less of a burden for them. And some people didn't get the results and then they leave. But if I'd said to them, like, you have to keep, maybe they would have got results if I'd made them stick to the plan.
or just ask them. Like I realized that as well. Like, okay, objective findings and subjective findings show that you're holding better your adjustments. Maybe before you were not holding more than 1 week, and that would make sense that we will see you on a weekly basis. But now your adjustments are holding longer. I think objectively, normally, I would suggest to my patients to try to space it out and to see how your body's adapting and how your adjustments are holding. Are you okay to move in that direction? Do you feel that you are ready to go on to the 2 weeks? And since I started asking the question instead of telling them, okay, let's go to 2 weeks, I've had people telling, well, no, I'd rather stay once a week if it's fine with you. Because then I was coming from the assumption that it would be too much of a burden for them in terms of time, energy, and money. Which is a very student mentality thing. We just get out of a savings environment, and to maybe for someone it's just they are super happy to spend that money to invest that money and time in the health in that direction. So
I think I was just afraid of being like one of these people that's like, yeah, you're going to come 3 times a week for a year and not get any results. I just didn't want to be that guy. So I was like, I want to see you once a week. As soon as you start seeing results, I'll put you to 2. But I started doing that too soon. Now I'll be like, you're almost there. Let's just give it a little bit more time. And if they then hold, then I'll be like, hey, now we can. And then they're on board because they got the results.
And you can always revert back. If you are very authentic, you tell them, I think objectively that you're ready to try to space out. But that being said, let's check you again in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, if I see that you haven't hold your adjustment and maybe you're not ready, would you be okay to go on for a while? And often they want what's best for them. And I want what's best for them. So I think it's a conversation that it needs to come from an authority. You as a chiropractor know that subluxations take time to correct, but also it's a patient-centered approach. You want to have a conversation right from the beginning about can we move in that direction together, and that, or again, you might have a big stress in your life, and then once a month or every 2 weeks is not going to be enough, because you're going to be going through a divorce, and you're going to have your kids being taken away, or you're going to have and I'm just talking about this amount of stress, but that could be an accident, an injury. Yeah, of course you need to come more often. The goal is to allow your body to adapt better. If you have more stressors, then if you have more destructive forces in one side, just get as much constructive force on the other side too.
That's why my favorite people to deal with are my maintenance care people that have been with me for a while, because it's like they come in once a month or twice a month. if they want to, usually once a month. And they come in and you know that spine, and I'll feel it and be like, what's going on here? And I'll go, well, you know, I'll be like, physical, chemical, or emotional? And they'll be like, well, you know, my grandmother died last week. I'm like, oh, okay, right, so what kind of stress do you think that is? Emotional? Well, all right. Or they'll come in and I'll be like, what's going on here? And they're like, I went drinking last night. I'm like, oh, what kind of stress do you think that is? And chemical. I'll be like, all right. And you can use it to teach them why they're
Educate,
subluxated.
for sure. Or the other way around, and that's what I think is very cool. Is often they come and they are like, I'm hurting here, and you are tempted to go and say, lay down and go where they're hurting, and then that you're like again being taken away from your mission, which is objective finding where the subluxation is and get there. Not only just putting your attention with like a magnifying glass where it's hurting, but the best question the best communication tool I've been using lately is, I'm hurting here. Okay, why do you think that is? Just ask them, why do you think that is? And then I tell you, well, I lifted a big thing yesterday, and then okay, thank you for telling me. All right, let's get to work. You know, let's check that. And it's a good conversation because symptoms are here to. It's just alarms. It's signals. When I have symptoms, whatever symptom, I'm asking myself, why is that?
Yeah.
Okay, and you want to not only tell them, spit your chiropractic story to them. You want to have them understand.
We don't talk about symptoms here.
Actually, no. Actually have them connect with their symptoms and be in tune more to what's happening in their body, and asking the question. And often, I've noticed myself, or sometimes they would come and they would tell you, like, I'm hurting there, and I would almost feel it as an attack, or I'm still hurting, doctor, I'm still hurting, you know, and I would almost feel like, well, yes, I've told you it was going to be a process, and that's not a good energy. It's like, okay, why do you think that is? And often they are not complaining; they just want to just let it out, and well, I think that's because of that. Okay, it means I shouldn't do it, right? I say, well, maybe not, and then. So I think it's really good to talk about symptoms. Actually, we should talk about symptoms in a clever way. To our advantage, to teach them about the cleverness of the body, or remind them for those who have forgot it.
Yeah. One more
to go. So, Élie, how often do you get adjusted?
I try to get checked once a week.
Zarak,
twice a month.
you get adjusted twice a month.
Like every other week.
Yeah.
How many times you got adjusted this week?
This week,
Twice, BGI?
structurally,
Adjustment general.
I'm gonna not to offend anybody, but I don't know if I would count that as an adjustment. But I got checked, but I didn't. Nothing moved. I didn't get structurally adjusted. I got my energy cleaned.
All right. So.
Why are you trolling me?
No. It is. I want to ask a question.
Right.
I think it's about rhythm. It's about finding a pace and a rhythm.
My structural adjustment, I want twice a month to be checked.
It's your pace. It's your
Yeah, because that's what that will be my question. For example, me, I believe I just got adjusted every week, and I want to keep that for the rest of my life. So that's why I tell
Too
my
much.
people. I tell my people, hey, that's what I do. There's a bunch of things that I know.
Yeah, but you
that's
don't.
what
You never. You don't need to find time, energy, and money in your week to make for that one adjustment, because you can get adjusted without spending a coin and at home. Like literally, you could do that.
Not at home.
Well, I don't know, but what I'm saying is that you also want to be realistic about what's doable, and I don't tell my mother to get adjusted every week. I tell her to get checked at least once a month, and I can use that. I can say, well, I want what I want for my mother, I want for you, you know. And of course, I get adjusted every week. For me, it's very easy. I have it more accessible than you. But if you're willing to spend the energy, time, and money,
my acute patients get adjusted once a week.
Yeah, and they love it, and they are like, that's the the breath that they can take. If they are in pain for that amount of time, and the day that they come, they are out of pain for a couple of days. That's like that was worth the investment of time, energy, and money, and they're going to be willing to spend it in that. And it's about not about only about adjusting them, but about showing what it's worth to be adjusted, telling them what you could get, or actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say about that.
Yeah, we could talk 4 hours.
That's 1 hour bang
hours.
on. We can't upset the neighbors, but can we give them a very quiet round of applause?
Thank you, guys.
There's only 2 people here, and we wear masks. We wear masks.
Yeah. And we're all social distance. The living room's huge. Huge. It's huge, and it comes from China.
And of course, we did a PCR just before coming.
There's someone at the doors doing the PCR. Thank you very much.
Guys. Thank you.
Thank you.